Welcome to So You Think Your Car is Fast, where we dive into the world of high-end, fast cars and explore what it truly means to have a fast car. From the latest in supercar technology to the mechanics that make these machines go, we'll separate fact from fiction and uncover the misconceptions about speed and power that exist in the minds of the general public. Join us as we put the pedal to the metal and discover what it takes to have a car that truly lives up to the title of fast.
So I just got a phone call from Robert at Force Performance.
What did he have to say for himself?
Just check and see how you're doing on this Thursday.
I answered it, "Hey, Amber," because her name is programmed in the phone. He goes, "Hey, this is Robert at Force Performance. I'm looking for Todd and all."
That sounds like Robert.
Yeah, what timing? So anyway, we received the new turbos yesterday and discovered that they don't bolt right up.
Get a bigger hammer.
So we either force them on or we have to do a little bit of fab work on the exhaust.
Well, you were saying Garrett, right? You thought they were Garrett. So I kind of thought that they were Garrett turbine housings, but they're not. They're Tile Force Performance turbine housings. So how did that happen?
I bought them from AIM in 18.
Oh, you did?
Mm-hmm.
I didn't know where you got them from.
Yeah, I didn't either. I thought I found the photo of them in a box, and the photo was geotagged Plainfield, New Jersey. I'm like, oh, I only know one company up there. So I text Joe, and he's like, oh yeah, you got those from us. I'm like, ugh, because we just want to double check what the AR was, and it's 82. So, so I'm gonna swap those. Going to swap the new 35s out with the 40s, and we'll see. We'll see what kind of bacon we can make. But yeah, what do you think about surge?
So I'm worried about surge in that combination, just because it's so much compressor. And what ends up happening is boost comes in, right? So like you get from a point where the turbocharger is just kind of in the way, spinning in the exhaust, to it gets enough exhaust energy to speed it up, and it starts pulling a lot more air in. And then that's when you create boost. And that's what we want, right? We want boost. But there is such a thing as making too much boost, where the differential of pressure.
No.
Yeah. I was shocked by this too. It took me a while to wrap my head around it. But where the differential of pressure before the compressor wheel to after the compressor wheel directly related to how much air it's actually flowing at that moment. It's kind of like the wing of an airplane. When you go too slow, an airplane wing will stall and stop creating lift. And that's kind of what's happening in a turbocharger at that point. Another way to think about it is like a wheel or a tire on the ground. And instead of the ground staying stationary and the wheel turning and moving a car, think about the opposite, where the wheel stays put and it's pushing the ground. As the amount of resistance necessary to move the ground with the wheel and tire increases, there comes a point where the wheel, because of the amount of traction that it has, it loses traction. And that's kind of what's going on with the compressor wheel. So as you're spinning the compressor wheel and making, quote, too much boost, which again, I never thought was possible for there to be such a thing, it can lose grip on the air, or it stalls. And it creates that surge.
I'm sorry, I wasn't paying attention. Could you start over?
You start over from surge.
I'm just kidding.
Man. So yeah, it's creating enough pressure in the intake that it can't make anymore at that RPM and at that compressor RPM, and air starts reverting and going in funny directions. So, there's a couple of interesting solutions to that. One of which is to have more displacement in your engine, because the engine can breathe more air. So that's when like having a 3.8 versus a 4.0 versus a 4.2 matters, and in our Porsche engine world anyway. Or you can get a little bit creative with your cam timing and the variable cam timing specifically. So if you create more cam overlap, which you open your intake valves and your exhaust valves at the same time essentially, and just move some air on through, right, in and out, lets the compressor wheel flow more, which then relieves that surge condition.
But don't you lose some efficiency if it's coming out the exhaust already?
Well, yeah, I don't know if you're really losing efficiency. You're actually gaining efficiency because the compressor can't operate at that pressure at such a low flow level.
Yeah,
right.
but
So the
I
idea is
guess
to get the flow up.
I guess maybe not efficiency, but wouldn't that make your turbo spin faster at a comparative boost level?
Yes, and that's the whole idea.
Gotcha. Right.
Well, I don't know if it really makes it spin faster, but it allows it to move more air. So I guess it's making it more efficient at that point, and
But
it'll
you're
drop the
you're
boost
still
level.
moving air through the motor that's not getting compressed for combustion.
Yeah, yeah.
I guess it's a give and take, right? Like most things.
Well, we don't really have a way to control the ratio of the speed of the compressor wheel and the turbine wheel, right? It's a 1-to-1 ratio, one RPM for the turbine wheel and 1 RPM for the compressor wheel. There's nothing you can do to change that, right? Because they're connected by a solid shaft. You could put a bigger turbine wheel in it, which would slow the compressor wheel down, which would prevent it from surging in that particular instance, but then you've lost all the advantages of the smaller turbine wheel and in the lower RPM range, such as response. Really what it is it's too much response at that RPM. So, another interesting thing that you could do is, essentially set up a wastegate on your intake piping, and then you could open that intake wastegate and bypass air so that it no longer goes through the engine. There's a few interesting solutions to that, which I guess, we're kind of getting to the point with these 3.8, 4.0 liter engines where we can't put a bigger turbo on it without having some, we were discussing trade-offs before. It's a pretty major trade-off.
Well, and that's we've dealt with the surge on my car too. With these super secret sauce big turbos, we've had a surge, so that's what we've been kind of trying to get out. It sounds like maybe we got somewhat control of it, but I don't know.
Yeah, I think Wayne has some ideas on how to combat that.
Yeah. Last time I talked to Wayne, he was really liking the changes that we made.
Yeah, I don't know exactly what the data is saying, but I got the same impression that it was good. And the main thing being the header swap. Your old headers, while very, very beautiful,
they just
were small on
well,
the primary
the runners were small on them, and then the inlet of the header, right, like where it bolts onto the head, it was smaller than the exhaust port on the head. So we were already getting turbulence before anything left the head itself.
Yeah, that's no bueno.
So we'll see what happens when I haven't even really gotten to drive it since the header bigger compressor cover stuff.
So where is it now?
It is at Wayne's shop right now. It is going to Houston today, tomorrow, maybe. I want Steve to give it a once over and check any minor, for those that can't see me, I've got my fingers crossed, minor issues.
So, do you mind if it sits on the back burner for a few days? Because I just got word that my engine is en route to Steve's.
I mean,
so he will be tied up. I'm telling you right now, he'll be tied up Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. But because I'm going to 2K and you are not.
No, I'm not. When I talked to Steve, his first impression, although he might be trying to ease me into this, make me feel better, is that my situation's not that big of a deal, or at least it might not be a very big deal.
Right.
I'm out of town all next week anyway, so whether it gets done Monday or anytime next week, it doesn't affect me. So it's fine if it's on the back burner for a little bit.
Obviously, you're trying to make Hondo, which is
March 25. It's like one of those things, right? Like if you ever taken management classes and stuff, and if you give somebody a task, it fills up the time period. It doesn't really matter when. That's how my car works.
Yeah.
Like, oh, we got 4 months to the next event. Oh, this will be easy, no big deal. And then we're always coming up against timelines.
Speaking of Texas 2K, neither one of you are going, obviously, because you're getting ready for Hondo, and I guess Dan's car is not going to be ready for Hondo. But they changed some rules this year, or at least they're enforcing them. So every car is required to have a belly pan or a diaper.
The car, not the driver.
Well, the driver obviously should always have a diaper.
Understood.
And then they're also enforcing the no coolant rule, no water wetter. So Steve will just put the car back together with just water, which is fine, no biggie. But the whole issue is making a belly pan for a rear engine 911. It just doesn't exist, right? So I contracted my friends at AIM, and they said that they stamped a bunch out, and they're going to have one for every car that they're bringing, plus an extra one for me, thank goodness. So I think they're going to bring it to the event and help me install it. But it's requiring a 2-inch lip all the way around, and if you think about it, we don't have 2 inches of clearance, really.
Not
I mean,
really.
so I don't know. I hope this thing is just, I don't know. I hope it actually works and it doesn't create some drag and is not just so big and bulky. And I don't know. I hate it.
Well, I can already see Peter B making fun of people's diapers on their cars that he made them put there in the
that he
first place.
made them put on. Exactly. Yeah. But I mean, the whole reason behind it is because you have GTRs and Civics scattering their entire drivetrain and engine down the track, and
it's a real problem.
1 hour to clean it up. So.
It's a real problem. I'm surprised they haven't enforced some sort of rule like that before now, to be honest. But what sounds like a great idea to me is breaking your car and then dumping a whole bunch of fuel and oil and then holding it right under your engine to catch on fire.
Right where the turbos are.
Where our turbos are. Exactly. Yeah. I mean, it's, it seems like the GTRs, the Corvettes, they all have a top mounted turbo. Some of them are sticking out of the hood. Ours are dragging, literally they scrape over speed bumps. My wastegates hit speed bumps.
I put a hole in my boost hose right there at the outlet of the turbo.
And that was on flat ground, just kind of a bump or a dip.
Man, if I'm honest, I think our initial impression was that it happened at the event, because there was that bump at the end of
at the end.
Was it Indy?
You're going 200. It was Indy.
I mean, you can hear, Todd, on your draggy video, you can hear where the motor revs because you lose traction.
Left the ground.
It lifts the car. But coming off my driveway is kind of weird, and coming off my driveway could have started that. And maybe I don't know, one or two things. This new setup, though, the way the turbos are mounted, Trey got me a little more clearance.
Oh, okay.
I probably have another inch, maybe inch and a half of clearance where that one low point was sitting. So
that'll help.
Yeah.
You just need some heat shielding tape here.
I just so happen to have this on my desk.
I do. I meant to have my intake cam sitting on my desk today, and I forgot. So
heat shielding, great, but it doesn't help from impact with the concrete.
Well, it's got a little bit of padding in it.
Okay. Not at 200 miles an hour.
Well, I discovered that my generator tank was ever so slightly rubbing on the spark plug wire, which has like a metal thing on it. And so I was like,
that's not good.
Yeah. So I'm going to put this on there and fix it. But I could go get that camshaft if you guys want, but I'd have to get up.
I want to go through the questions that we recently got.
Yeah, we're all kind of at a standstill point with our cars.
Yeah, I have no idea when my parts are coming. I have one cam. I ordered both exhaust cams. I ordered the other intake cam that I could not get for a reasonable price from Porsche, but all of the cams are shipping from Germany. And Steve ordered my cam housings, to which I am just going to find the receipt and burn it before my wife sees it.
I want to go through the questions that we recently got. So some event basics first timers want to know.
First thing they need to do is walk around, find the starting line, find the
finish line,
staging line, find the finish line, understand where the flags are at the finish, understand where the end of the runway is.
Attend the mandatory drivers meeting.
At least the first time.
Don't assume you know where the turnoff is.
Well, since I'm the most recent newcomer, going to the events prior to actually racing in them or participating in them did help.
Okay.
Because there was some familiarity, right, with how the cars, where they drive and what's happening. So that was that was kind of nice.
I'm a big
Yeah.
believer in knowing the track before you drive on it.
Yeah, that's a big one for me too. I mean, doing the Texas Mile, you're 30 seconds, 230 miles an hour. You kind of need to know where to stop, and how quickly you need to stop. So that's a huge one.
Even if that means getting on, Google Maps and looking at the layout of the runway in advance.
Mm-hmm.
You may not know exactly how the event's going to have it set up and where the cones are going to be, but you can glean a lot of information from that, knowing where the places that you don't want to be are. That's what whenever we get a new airport that we're going to, I always go look at Google Maps and measure it, see how long it is, and then look for places that cars don't want to go and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
Because everything will
usually
be
these
fine
events-
until something goes wrong. So.
Right. And normally at these events, the cars, when they go off, they slide. There's no walls to hit. They just slide until they stop, gather some dust and dirt.
Sometimes they spin around.
Sometimes they spin. Yeah.
And that one took off that one time with the parachute.
I don't know that I saw that one.
Which one was that?
I want to say it was a GTR.
Was that the
Where
GTR?
right at the end of the runway, they released the chute when they hit the brakes, and it pulled the back end of the car up.
That was a while back, right?
Was that the one in Abilene?
That was at the Texas Mile, right?
No. It was one of the shift sectors. I was there.
Oh, okay.
I don't remember if it was one that I was participating in or if it was one I was watching. I don't remember.
I remember there being a rather unpleasant GTR accident at one of them recently.
But he was okay.
The guy ended up being okay, but it was kind of scary because we were watching it, and I think
it rolled.
It did.
Yeah.
But there were some extenuating circumstances. I didn't see it. I had my back turned when he crossed the line, but I was told that the rear tires came off. The rear wheels came off the car.
Yeah, that's.
Oh, wow.
Sounds familiar.
That might have been one of them that you weren't at, Todd. I don't know. Because
I
you
don't
remember
remember
this. But we were watching it, and the car had rolled. But, it was quite a ways away from us because we were near the finish line. But, the car carried a ways.
Yeah.
And everybody was just kind of standing around it. And there was a small fire, presumably from fuel. Not like a, oh, my goodness fire, but a little fire.
Mm-hmm.
And they were just kind of standing around looking. So we thought everything was totally fine. But what was actually going on was the roof had been crushed and the driver was stuck in the car. So it was a little unpleasant.
A little more serious.
Things like that make me not surprised that some guys just build a car and have someone else drive it.
Oh yeah, I saw that. That was an interesting thought. But there are a lot. That was my plan.
Oh yeah.
Until I talked to you, Todd. I remember. Seems like one of the very first times we talked, you're like, so you're going to come do these events, and I was like, I don't know. I hadn't really thought about it. And you said, why in the world are you building the car if you're not going to come race it? And I was like, fair.
It's like,
This guy
that's
speaks
a pretty good
truth.
point.
Yeah. Otherwise, it just sits in the garage, and then you're like, I'm not driving this on the street.
Yeah, I mean, these aren't 500 horsepower cars anymore. They're a little bit different. I do drive mine around. Like I'll take mine to the grocery store sometimes.
Yeah.
But I don't step on the gas because if you do, you're 3 seconds away from 150 miles an hour. 60 to 130 in these cars is in the 3 second range. So it happens quick.
Yeah, you're right.
I would also add, mold your expectations. You're not going to go out there and run your best time. Man, I get, I guess the best term for it's buck fever. I get so excited at that staging and launching that I forget everything.
Mm-hmm.
It's an adrenaline fueled sport, and you can get nervous when there's 50 people, 100 people standing around looking at you that you can see from the driver's seat, and you don't know if you're supposed to drive on the right side of the cone or the left side of the cone, and you don't want to look like an idiot. So
just go right over it, so you're a little on the left and a little on the right.
Yeah. Best thing to do when you don't know what to do is to stop, roll your window down, and wave somebody over. It's
worse at 2K because there's 100 people literally standing 5 feet from your car at the start. Shift sector's not so bad. You definitely are pretty far away from any spectators from the starts. That's good.
Yeah, and it's difficult going to races in a car that to everybody else looks like Todd's, because it's happened a couple of times where I'm driving through the pits back to my parking spot, and a guy yells obscenities at me, and I'm like, So the last time that happened, I yelled back at him almost immediately and said, "I'm not Todd."
You just assumed.
I just assumed. It's with the helmet on. Nobody can tell.
Right. That's right.
And I think we both have carbon fiber-ish helmets too.
Right. Red car, black helmets. Same.
Yeah.
Same.
Yep. That guy came and found me later and apologized and said, "I'm sorry. I thought you were Todd." I'm like, "I know. I think it's hilarious. Don't worry about it."
Wonder what he was mad at.
He wasn't. He was just, friendly guy banter. So
I wonder if it was the guy in the BMW. That poor guy.
I think it was. Yeah. No. Oh, the guy that you raced? No, I don't think it was him.
Yeah.
I think it was
We line up and he gave me his video, so I know what it said. He said, he goes, "Oh, we're not going to race this guy."
Well, we're not racing this guy.
And then
Yeah, it's kind of depressing when you're in your fast car and another car comes up to run you and they get so far away that you can't tell what make and model of car it is anymore. They're just gone. You're like, huh? Yeah, it's not really a race anymore, is it?
So I'm going back. Hopefully, if Steve doesn't kill me and my car goes back together, fine. Hopefully, I'll make 2K, and if I make 2K and get through that, I'll make Hondo.
So when is 2K?
It's the 15th. Well, the roll race is the 15th and 16th of March.
Okay.
So we do qualifying on Wednesday, which means you go out there and give it your best shot from 60 miles an hour to the finish line. And then they take the fastest top 56 cars. Top 8 are in their spot called Elite 8. And then 3 brackets of 16. Doesn't matter if you're rear-wheel drive, all-wheel drive, 6-speed, DCT. We're all in the same pile. It's all based on speed.
So let's talk about this a little bit because, we have touched on the topic of roll racing, but I don't know that everybody understands the details.
Mm-hmm.
So how long is this race going to be? That we can start there. They shortened the distance this year, right?
Yeah. Okay. So basically the way it works is you start from a dead stop way, way behind the starting, what's the traditional tree of a drag strip at Houston Raceway Park. So you start together and you roll out together and you get up to about 60 miles an hour. And there is a tree. Normally it's a light behind the normal tree. And when that goes green, you race together to the finish line. The roll up to the start, I don't know, 600 feet or so, maybe 600-700 feet. And then the actual run has been 1,600-ish feet. And then now they've shortened it down to about 1,300.
So it's like a normal drag race. You roll into the starting zone, which is where the race is eligible to be started from. But you can start, early in the starting zone and end up with a longer distance of a race because the finish line doesn't move. The finish line is stationary.
That's
or
right.
You could be started late in the starting zone and the actual race distance is shorter.
Mm-hmm.
So you can't necessarily compare 2 races to know which car is faster because you don't know if they started from the same spot.
That's exactly right. So that's why you get a discrepancy. Well, I've trapped 189. Oh, well, I've trapped 195. Well, where'd you start? Well, I don't know, somewhere in between the 300 feet that you could actually get greenlit. So yeah, but at the end of the day, the cars, shake themselves out and the faster cars win. It's just a matter of getting down the 13. Now it's going to be about 1,250 to 1,300 feet as opposed to 1,600 feet of a race. So they did that, I think, because there's a lot of cars they're just going so fast. They're doing 230s and there's not enough room to stop.
Yeah. I mean, 230 miles an hour in a 3,000 pound plus car is difficult to stop in a reasonable space, without going, there's not like a huge runoff at that point because they're finishing the race beyond what the normal quarter mile finish line would be.
Exactly. Taylor, have you ever done a roll race, like an official one, like a 2K or a Texas Invitational?
I have
Well,
not.
it's great because it's what drag racing for high power cars should be that don't want to
break. Yeah.
Yeah. You don't want to break, and you don't want to run on tires that can only go straight. Because you can get big slicks, nice, easy on the driveline stuff, but you put 13, 14 pounds of air in it, and if you try to take a turn, it'll rip it off the wheel. So for a car that you want to drive around and enjoy on the street, you're pretty much stuck with some bias ply tires, but mostly radial tires.
Mm-hmm.
And those just don't launch well. But I mean, launching a car is like the hardest thing on it. The most shock, the most stress. Your engine makes whatever torque it makes, and then your gearbox is a torque multiplier. So, if you're in like a 3-to-1 first gear and your car makes 800 foot-pounds of torque, it's putting 2,400 foot-pounds to the ground, and so that breaks things.
Yep. Yeah, and a lot of times you'll get a rookie, basically someone who just had the money to buy an R8 or a Lambo or whatever, and had the money to give someone, $200,000 to give it 2,000 horsepower, and they've never driven that fast. What's most important is stopping those cars, and you can't just stand on the brakes at the end of the run. You just have to ease off the accelerator, slowly apply the brake, and then start to stand on it, quickly after that. These guys are letting off, the car's getting loose, and then they're hitting the brakes. There's no weight on the back. The whole weight has shifted forward, and they're slamming on the brakes, and they're just spinning. And it happened at 2K last year. There was, I don't know, half a dozen cars that did that.
Yeah, there were a lot of wrecks last year. I was surprised. That was my first time even spectating it, and I didn't expect quite the carnage.
Yeah, I'd never seen that many crashes in one weekend either. Yeah, it's just a byproduct of the car. The recent end of the world and people staying home for 2 years, and a lot of people not racing. I think people, built cars during that time, and power went up dramatically. How fast do we think we're going to have to go this year to qualify for the roll race? Because the qualifications are different, right?
Yeah,
So
it's going to be slower because it's a shorter run, right? So last year the slowest qualifying speed was 184, and it's 250 to 300 feet shorter this year. So I'm just guessing it's going to be 10 mile an hour slower this year, everybody, with relatively speaking, same power.
It might be more than that.
Yeah,
the 230 cars might be more like 215.
Okay, so I think it's going to bring speeds down, at least qualifying speeds down. So, but it's going to be relative. It's not, everybody's going to be going slower in this shorter distance.
Of course, when it comes to the underground racing cars, they may have enough to go 230 on the new
shorter distance.
Shorter distance too. They just weren't using it.
Mm-hmm.
It's hard to say. It'll be entertaining to see for sure.
Yeah.
So last year the cutoff was 192.
184 was the cutoff to just qualify top 56. So
184.
184. Yeah, and there was 170 cars trying to qualify. So yeah.
Is there the same number of cars this year?
I don't know. I haven't counted them, but I'm sure, he's gonna have just as many. It's last year in Houston, so I'm sure a lot of people signed up. So that Wednesday, we're gonna have, I think, 4 hours to go out there and get a good trap.
I'm gonna try to come down on Tuesday.
Yeah, it starts on Wednesday this year. It's been Thursday, Friday. Now it's Wednesday, Thursday. They've added another day of drag racing.
So tell me again, what day does it start?
The 15th, March 15th, Wednesday.
Oh, okay. All right.
Yeah, I think the drag racing is really kind of the main event, if you will.
Yeah, it's definitely the draw for sure.
So they do the roll race, and because they have to reconfigure the track by putting the roll race starting lights out, putting the roll race finish line out, and they put a bunch of cones out to try to direct the drivers through the starting area, so you can kind of see where the starting area starts and ends.
Right.
So it takes them 30 minutes to an hour or something like that to switch between a drag race configuration and a roll race configuration. Yeah, but they do have a individual. I know him actually completely randomly. I worked with him on a work project completely unrelated, and we never even talked about it. I had no idea he was the roll race starter for TX2K, but he sits in the stands with the button.
Which one, Paul or
no, Zach.
Oh, okay.
and he sits there and presses the button and starts the races. So I've been giving him, crap for years now that I've figured this out the last couple of years. Like, man, I don't know about that start, buddy. That one, yeah.
I mean, think about it. He's got to make sure that the cars are within, I guess, I think it's half a car length before he can actually give it a green light.
Yeah, I don't know what their standards are. I don't know that they want everybody to know exactly what their standards are either, because the more you tell these racers, the more they're going to try to game
Exploit it. Yeah, they'll
Which,
definitely.
I guess it's part of the sport. But for me, I want to look at the other guy and say, look, I'm going to run this straight up. I'm going to go right down there. No funny business. Let's just find out who's faster.
Yeah.
But not everybody wants to do that. Some people think that they want to win whether or not they're the faster car.
Mm-hmm.
So you get to play games sometimes.
Well, there is prize money this year.
Yeah, but I don't know that the prize
$2,000
money
to
is
win.
enough to cover the gas.
I think it's $2,000.
Well, how much does it cost to drive across the country and go to a race? I mean, for us,
not for me. It's just 30 minutes down the road. So,
yeah.
But it's gonna move.
Don't get me wrong.
Before.
I'd love to get the cash, but
yeah, $2,000 compared to some of these cash days, $20,000, $30,000, $40,000. It's nothing.
But it's cool they're doing it.
Mm-hmm.
So, what about you, Taylor? Are you gonna go roll race with yours? Do you think ever?
I mean, I'm not against it. I don't know. I don't know.
It's a lot of fun. I did roll races in mine years ago when Texas Invitational was running them. I'd like to do them again, but I want to see some developments in the starting before that happens.
Like we said in the last episode, you are the only one doing something like that. So get it figured out. Bring something to market, Dan.
Yeah, I have a few ideas. It's been sitting on the back burner now for a little while, so need to get it going again, I suppose.
Yeah, I mean, there's got to be a bigger draw. Texas Invitational was big. He had no problem getting 100 cars to that. It was just a roll race.
Well, that picture of the Vipers behind you is the Texas Invitational, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
That looks like Caddo Mills.
Yeah.
It
seems like there's less and less events as we go through time.
Well, I think 2020 to the end of 2022. I mean, things are almost back to normal now.
That's true. I guess I'm not taking that into consideration. There were lot less all events during that time.
Mm-hmm.